Hey guys, in this video, I'm going to show you how to become a millionaire in the military. It is way easier than you think. Hey guys, welcome back. In this episode, I'm going to give you 2 ways that will guarantee you to become a millionaire while you're in the military. I bet you these 2 ways you haven't even thought of, and it's not going to take much additional time, and it's actually going to benefit you while you're doing it. All right, the first way is buy a house at every duty station. Let me tell you why. You might be shaking your head, no way, I don't want to become a landlord. I'm going to only live there 2 years. Let me tell you a story. When I was in Germany, I paid 850 euro per month every single month. And if you look at the euro to the dollar, that equals almost about $1,000 a month that time that I was in Germany. And it still is about maybe $1.14 today for US dollar for every euro I paid. So I paid $1,000 a month for 36 months. That's 3 years while I was in Germany. I will never get that $36,000 back. The military gave me these funds and they expect me to use them responsibly. And I wasn't able to buy a house in Germany, but that was what gave me the idea that every duty station I'm gonna go to, I'm gonna purchase a house, because if I sell this house when I leave or if I rent it out, I'm not just throwing away that money. You are throwing away your money if you are renting for the next 20 years, or let's just say you're in the military only for 4 years. Well, you are just throwing that money away. You're never gonna get it back. What if I can show you a way that guarantees you to be a millionaire while you're in the military? All right, how do you buy a house at every duty station? You know, sometimes it's a little harder. You know, you might have to rent a house for a month. Sometimes you can actually rent a house that you're gonna buy for a month, like almost like try before you buy. Hey, what if I paid 1.5 times the market rent for you to allow me to live in this house, because I wanna make sure it's a good house before I buy it. Number 2, we can use the VA loan as veterans, as active duty military, and you pretty much have to come up with 0 money out of your pocket. It's not like coming up with first, last, and security. If you're renting a house out for $1,000 a month, you're coming up with $3,000. You know, if you're gonna come up with that much money, you can actually purchase a house. Why make your landlord a millionaire when you can make yourself a millionaire? So that's one way. That's the way to buy a house. Now you can use other ways like conventional loans or FHA loans, but the military VA loan is amazing. Next benefit, you are actually building equity while you're owning this house. Every year, real estate appreciates. Look at history. On average, real estate appreciates 6% per year for the last 30 years. Now, granted, we have drops in the market, we have slowdowns, but it always comes right back up. So look at that. Also, mortgage pay down. Someone else is going to be paying your mortgage when you move out of this property, but the 3 years you're stationed there, or the 2 years you're stationed there, you are getting something called basic allowance for housing, or BAH. The military is paying for you to own this house. So you're actually utilizing the military's money while you're paying that mortgage down, while you're getting appreciation. And then there's one more benefit that no one talks about. You're gonna wanna talk to your CPA, your certified public accountant, about this. I'm no CPA, I'm not giving tax advice. I don't even claim to completely understand it, but it's something called depreciation. When you own a rental, you were able to use it as a write-off. So if you're earning, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month and that's getting taxed, that write-off almost eliminates that tax you're receiving. So when you get 3, 4, 5 rental properties, I can almost guarantee you're not going to be paying any taxes. That's why the wealthy hardly pay any taxes. You might have heard about Donald Trump or Warren Buffett paying less taxes than their secretary. It's 100% true, because the tax code is written to provide you benefits, you as the landlord, because you provide housing. There's a perfect example of why the government does not provide housing. It's a place called Detroit, Michigan. Go and look at those tract homes. Those things are infested with rats and roaches and mice because the government was providing the housing. The government is not in the housing business, so they give you tax benefits to provide housing. All right, another cool strategy about buying a property, a house at every single location. I prefer to be pretty close to the military base. I prefer it to be in a nice location. But one benefit is you might see in your 20-year military career, if you're planning to stay that long, you might come back to, say, Fort Carson for a second time, or Fort Knox, Kentucky for a second time, or Fort Lee, Virginia, or whatever Army base. You might go back there a second time. So it's really easy to move right back into your house a second time if there's no tenants in there. And if you go back a second time and the tenants have a lease for 2 years and you can't move into it, that's okay. Buy a second home in that location. It's okay, because you're always going to have tenants with guaranteed income. Because what does the military do? It provides a guaranteed basic allowing for housing. Another strategy when you're purchasing that property to live at for that 2 or 3 years you're stationed there, you want to think about what the rent would be for that property. And I prefer for that rent to cover the mortgage, but it's not always going to work out this way. Let's just say that the rent for that house would be $1,000 a month and your mortgage is $1,100. Guys, this is absolutely okay, because here's one thing that I can guarantee. If you look at national average rents, they always go up. So it might go up in 3 to 4 to 5 years, but if you're putting an extra $100 a month out of your paycheck to cover the mortgage for someone else living in that property, get over it. That is an absolute guaranteed forced savings account. If you can't put an extra $100, $200, $300 a month into a property that you're building equity in, appreciating, mortgage pay down, depreciating, and using that benefit for your tax write-offs, you have a spending problem. If you cannot have an additional $300 a month going to that property, you need to look at your spending. You need to cancel Netflix and Hulu and Spotify and all that garbage. So just look at that, because you're building your future. This is how to be a millionaire while you're in the military. And the last thing I want to talk to you before I move on to the second way to guarantee yourself to become a millionaire while you're in the military, I want to talk to you about the parable of talents. But before I talk to you about the parable of talents, I need you to hit that subscribe button. Guys, subscribe to this channel. I talk all things making money, and I'm from the military. I was in the military 8.5 years, did a couple combat deployments. If I can do it, you absolutely can do it. All right, so let's talk about the parable of talents. This is Matthew 25:14 through 30. I'm going to summarize this. I'm no preacher. So the master was going away on a long journey, and he gave 3 of his servants money. One was 1 talent, another one was 2 talents, and another one was 5 talents. Guys, a talent is basically like a gold coin. They just called it that back in the day. So like, picture a gold coin. So he gave 1 talent to the guy that he really didn't trust much, obviously, 2 talents to the guy that he trusts a little bit more, and 5 talents to the guy or his servant that he thought would do the most with it. So after a year or however long this was, the master comes back and gathers his servants back up, and the guy that had the 1 talent said, "Hey, I kept it safe. I buried it out back in the field. Here's your money back, the 1 talent." And the master was so upset. And that's why he didn't give him it very much. So he was so upset that he didn't do anything with it. The guy that got 2 talents turned it into 4 talents. He doubled it, and the master was pleased. And the servant that had the 5 talents, he turned that 5 into 10. He also doubled it, and the master was absolutely pleased. So the military gives us this money to use it on wise things. Ultimately, in the end, you are going to have to account for what you've done with the talents that you've received. So think about that. All right, I talked about owning these houses, and one thing I want, before I move on, if you look at every 3 years, let's just say you move every 3 years in the military, and you're in the military for, let's just say 18 years, or let's just call it 20 years divided by every 3 years moving. What does that come out to? That comes out to about 6.3-ish. I'm no math magician. I'm doing this on the top of my head while filming this video, but that's about 6.3 times you're gonna move. So let's say you accumulate 6 homes while you're in the military. After 30 years, if you got a 30-year mortgage on every single one of these properties, if you join the military at 18 years old, you are now 30 years later. So what's that? 28, 38, you're 48 years old, 30 years later, from 18 to 48, you own about 6 houses, almost 6 houses, free and clear. At 48 years old, if you have 6 houses and they're all bringing in $1,000 a month, that's $6,000 a month coming in. But let's look at the equity. On average, I've got many properties, but on average, each one of them have $200,000 equity. So if we take 6 houses and multiply that by $200,000 in equity, all my houses are not paid off, But if you look at my equity, I've got over $1.2 million in equity in a very short amount of time. I'm not 48 years old. So I've done this in a very short time. I'm looking at a longer time scale. So in 20 years, you can have 6 houses almost paid off, each one of them with about $200,000 equity. That puts you over a millionaire while you're in the military. All right, my second point and my most favorite point, and I 100% suggest you do this simultaneously while purchasing a home at every single duty station that the government helps you, the military helps you to buy, the VA loan, they pay you, and then other people are going to pay to live in these houses. But while you're doing this, buy land. I stumbled upon land in early 2016 while I was a military officer. I was working 12 hours a day on base. We were always in the field, always training, always gone, always away. And I was able to take the little bit of extra time that I had in the mornings and at night to find deeply discounted land. I was buying this stuff at 10, 20, 30 cents on the dollar. Like my first land deal, I purchased for $285 and I sold it to a realtor the next day for $5,000. And my second land deal was $500. I purchased it from this sweet old lady and she told me, look, I'll give it to you for $500. I sold it the next day on Craigslist for $500 down and $400 a month for a total of $5,000. So I was building my passive income up. So this passive income gave me an additional income stream that in about 2 years time frame, I had built it up to over $10,000 a month in land payments. So I talked about selling that second one on Craigslist for $400 a month. I just kept rinsing and repeating. And if you notice, I got my $500 out that I paid for the land with the down payment. So I virtually was risk-free. I had no money. I was creating notes. What is a note? It's basically a promise for someone to pay you. So I give you a note. You're going to pay me $400 a month for this land. Let's just call it 0% interest to keep it simple. $400 a month for the next 10 months. That's $4,000. That is a note requiring you to go out and work and make money so you can pay Brent. So that is the next way. The second way, I guarantee you that you'll become a millionaire while you're in the military. In 2 short years, only working about 2 hours a day building this business, I got it up to over $10,000 a month. Well, that's not even talking about the land that I own, the equity that we've got into it. So if you rinse and repeat this, now the land deals have turned into bigger deals, but I started there. So if you're interested in something like that, earning an additional passive income while in the military, I've got a tried and true method that I teach people how to buy land at massive, crazy discounts and turn around and sell this land to other people that are willing to pay you monthly for it. Because think about it. Americans think on what's it going to cost me each month. They don't look at the overall cost. Hey, eventually after I pay all the interest of 9, 10, 12% interest for the next 20 years, I'm going to pay you this much money. No, they look at, hey, it's only going to cost me $400 a month to own this sweet dream property they're going to build a cabin on one day. They're all in. So look at this. Head on over to thelandsharks.com if you want to check out more about it. Also, subscribe to this channel. I talk about all things land investing.